Welcome to Mishna study. We're up to Masechet Peah, Perek Bet, Mishnah Dalet. In this Mishnah, we'll discuss not just the basic trees, but some, examples of trees that don't fit the criteria in last Mishnah. So last Mishnah, we mentioned that for trees in a field, to give one Peah for that entire field, you would need to have one field without a fence separating in between. But if you have a fence, that would separate the two fields, the field into two separate fields. Our Mishnah will speak about carob trees and olive trees, which we'll see a fence is not even enough for, right? Even if there's a fence, it won't even split it into two fields. For carobs, כל הרואים זה את זה. אמר רבן גמליאל, נוהגים היו בית אבא, נותנים פאה אחת לזיתים שהיו להם בכל רוח. ולחרובים, כל הרואים זה את זה. רבי אליעזר ברבי סדוק אומר משמו, אף לחרובים שהיו להם בכל העיר. Right, so for the carob trees that we mentioned, כל הרואים זה את זה, right? As long as they could see one another, right? So what does this mean, see one another, right? Obviously trees are not seeing each other. So Rambam explains over here, as long as there is not something separating between one tree to the next. Whereas if a person was standing by one tree, he'd be able to see the second, right? I understand over here the second tree, right? If a person is standing by one tree, he could see the second. I would just point out, though, that in the halachot, right, in Mishna Torah, Rambam says, if a person's standing on by one tree, he won't be able to see another person by the other tree. Right, so as opposed to seeing the second tree, it has a person by the second tree. And it's interesting that Avad over there is Mesig Alav, and he wants to say that we're talking about a person standing by one tree and sees the other tree, right, not the other person. Okay, just an interesting side point. So that's for the carob. Now, Amar Rabban Gamliel comes and says, in our family, in our father's household, it was customary to bring one peah for all of the olive trees that were on one direction, on one side, right? Meaning what? The entire side, let's say you have the entire eastern side of the city, right? We would give all one peah for all of those olive trees on the entire eastern side of the city. And then a separate peah for everything on the western side of the city, right? And no one argues on Rabban Gamliel, right? This is what he says is customary in his father's home, and this is what the halacha is. And Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Sadok says in his name, even the carob trees that were in the entire city, right? So they don't have to see one another, right? You don't have to be able to even see the distance between one, carob tree to the next. If it's in the same city, according to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Sadok, you would give one peah for all the carob trees in the city. Halacha is not like Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Sadok. Rather, starting in last Mishnah, if there's a fence separating trees, right? Separating trees for all fruit trees, that would separate the two fields. When it comes to carob trees, as long as if a person's standing by one tree and he could see the other tree, that would be considered one field. When it comes to olives, the entire direction, right? Or the entire eastern side of the city or the western side of the city, that would be considered one field. That's the halacha that sums up this Mishnah.